Lakota, what's up?
What's the hardest part of your job?
Hardest part of my job, I would say, are the hours. It really doesn't stop, man, because it's a 24-hour news cycle and things can happen at any time of day. And it's funny because right now they're not playing games, right? Finals are over. Knicks aren't playing, but I'm probably busier now than I am in the season because the Knicks just had a draft where they had the number 8 pick. So I'm trying to figure out for weeks, like, who are they working out? Who are they meeting with? Who are they interested in? Who are they going to draft? Now the draft is over. Now comes free agency. So now I'm on the phone. I'm texting people trying to figure out what free agents are they talking to? Who do they want to sign? What are they going to offer? What trades are they going to try to do? So that now is the busiest time. So I say that to say that there's no set schedule for me. It really is just dependent on what's happening with players, with the coach, with Phil Jackson at the time. That dictates my schedule. So I think that's the hardest part because I had a young baby at home, got a wife, so balancing that out is difficult. But you guys will figure that out in a few years. Yes. What's your name?
Junior.
What is it?
Junior.
Junior. What's up?
Were you able to find out information like what would make the Knicks pick up like Frank Ntilikina over a bigger name like Dennis Smith or something?
Right.
Like what separated
So
them?
what goes into that is talking to scouts and talking to people who have spoken to the Knicks front office to kind of learn their thinking. And then after they made the pick, we got a chance to talk to Phil Jackson, and he kind of explained some of his thinking. And what he said was, you said it, Dennis Smith was on the board, right? Malik Monk was on the board. He said they had a pretty strong debate in their war room with the scouts and Steve Mills and Phil Jackson. They're all sitting in a room as the draft is going on. He said they had a healthy debate about the merits of each player, how each player could kind of fit into their system. And I think ultimately he really found success with Kristaps Porzingis over from Latvia, Billy Hernangomez from Spain. So I think he's kind of a bent towards the European player because he likes how they develop as young players. So I think that's what leaned him towards taking Frank. Now Frank, 7-foot wingspan, 6'5" guard, 18 years old. So he's got a very high ceiling if he could reach his potential. I think what they're thinking is they're going to play the long game. They're thinking that they're not going to be good next year, so why not take a guy that needs some development that could eventually maybe have a higher ceiling than Malik and Dennis if you develop him the right way over time because you're not in a rush to win right away. I think that was part of their thinking. Yes. What's your name?
My name is Eric Jones. I want to know, what do you think the common theme amongst the guys like Kemba and Lance? You spoke to the fact that those guys had a good support system.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that can translate for sports and life that you've seen in the guys who've had success at a high level in terms of you're covering the Knicks and guys like that? So what is a common theme that you think could help some of these young athletes in terms of their pursuit of their goals?
I think that's a fantastic question. And the thing that I see most often for the players that I cover who, again, have reached the highest of levels, just a dedication to their craft, almost like a obsession with the game and with getting better and with being efficient with their time and using every opportunity to improve. And I think that's true of really any field, like whether it's an athlete, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever it is. I think the best in your field are like almost have I don't want to say unhealthy obsession, but they're dedicated to really improving themselves in every aspect, at every opportunity. So, when you talk about a guy like Kemba, a guy like Kristaps Porzingis, a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, these guys at every opportunity are in the gym, or if they're not in the gym, they're looking at film. If they're not looking at film, they're in the weight room. So I'm sure they have a work-life balance because that's important, but they're so dedicated and laser focused really on improving themselves in every different aspect of the game, and I think that's what allows them to reach the levels that they've reached. But that's a good question. Yes.
If you were the general manager of the Knicks, would you have picked the Frank guy, Malik Monk, or Dennis Smith, and why?
That's another good question. Put me on the hot seat. So with Dennis, I think if he stays healthy and he reaches his potential, I think a lot of GMs of teams that were ahead of the Mavericks, which is the team that selected him at 9, are going to get in trouble because he could turn out to be one of the best players in the draft. For the Knicks, though, you know, if I was a GM, let's say I'm a GM under Phil Jackson, let's just put it that way, because they run the triangle offense, which is really different than from what a lot of other teams in the NBA run. It's not as pick and roll heavy. I think if you take Dennis Smith and you're on the Knicks and you're running the triangle offense, you're doing the wrong thing because he is such an explosive player and can really take advantage of that high pick and roll and create off of that. And that's not what you run. So maybe if you're Phil Jackson, you're not going to go that route. You're going to go with Frank because he looks like he's a player who can fit the triangle offense probably a little bit better than Dennis Smith. But then again, if I'm running the Knicks, we're not running the triangle offense. So maybe I'm going to take Dennis Smith Jr. But that's a good question. Any other questions, guys? Yes. What you mean?
What do you say the difference was from the modern NBA from the past NBA, except for the physicality and everything, like the way it's played?
That's a great question. I think, you know, physicality is a big part of it because, you know, the rules of defending on the perimeter were so much different back in the day with, you know, hand checking was allowed back in the early to mid 90s when I was, you know, probably your age, a little younger, watching the game. It was just a different game, much more physical game. Defending in the post was different. And I think taking those rules away has really opened things up on the perimeter and allowed guys like, you know, Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook to really create because they have so much more space to work in because of the rule changes. And I think now what you're seeing today that maybe you didn't see 10, 15 years ago, less is defined by positions these days, and it's more just about athletes. Like, you know, when I was younger in the mid-'90s, you know, the game was dominated by centers. Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, Hakeem Olajuwon, Alonzo Mourning. These guys would post up, back to the basket, get the ball, and everything would run through them in the post because they would attract the defense, and you would create open looks off of that. Now it seems like so much more is created by the guard and off the pick and roll, and that's really, that it's changed from creating through the post to creating off the pick and roll, and you don't see as much going through the post. That guy, that center with his back to the basket has kind of become extinct at that point. So I think, at this point I should say, so that's one of the biggest differences I think in today's game when you compare it to 10, 15 years ago. Yes?
What's the NBA's views on education with the individuals that are coming in? Because as a parent, you know, your child loves sports, but you're constantly reminding them of the other elements of education.
Yes.
So I just wanted to hear the NBA's views on education.
You know, that's interesting. I don't want to speak for like Adam Silver or anybody at the league office, but I don't know of any kind of like a continuing education program for, you know, let's say a player comes out after 1 year in college. I don't think there's any system in place that's organized by the league that helps these guys, you know, continue with classes, with online classes or whatever it may be. I don't know of anything in place there. So I think it's really left up to the individual player whether they want to continue to pursue their education, continue to pursue their degree,